The moment my mother stood up with her glass, I felt it. Not joy, not warmth. Something tightening in the room, like everyone already knew where this was going except me. She smiled the way she always did when she wanted control, soft, reassuring, practiced. The television behind her counted down to midnight on mute. Plastic cups clinked. My brother Jake stared at his plate. My father leaned back, arms crossed, already bracing. Before I could lower my glass, my mother's voice cut through the room. She announced that Jake was overwhelmed, that things had been hard for him. Then she turned toward me and calmly assigned the solution. Starting next month, I would cover his rent. No question, no pause, just a declaration, delivered like a household chore. Jake didn't look up. My father nodded once, as if this had been agreed on long before tonight. Something went quiet inside me. I had learned over the years that silence was how this family sealed decisions. The louder the room, the less anyone was expected to object. My mother added another line, her eyes steady on mine. I was strong. I could handle it. My father's voice followed, lower but final. If I chose not to help, I shouldn't come back. That was when it clicked. This wasn't impulsive. They hadn't chosen tonight by accident. New Year's Eve was safe, polite. No one liked to cause scenes when a year was ending. I lifted my glass anyway. The rim hovered near my mouth, untouched. Before the room could breathe again, the truth of this story needs to be clear. The story you are about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team of the channel Revenge Pulse, inspired by real-life situations to convey lessons about family, emotion, and human values. All characters and events are illustrative. I set the glass down without drinking. The sound was soft, but it carried. The words that came out surprised even me. Calm, flat, certain. I wouldn't be doing that anymore. My mother's smile cracked. My father leaned forward, irritation flashing across his face. Jake finally looked up, confusion giving way to something sharper, fear, maybe, or expectation breaking apart. No one chased me as I reached for the door. No one stopped me as the cold hit my face, sharp and unforgiving. I realized I'd left my coat behind and didn't turn back for it. Behind me, laughter resumed, forced and brittle, the way people pretend nothing has changed. Outside, the night felt clean, honest. I didn't know yet how far this would go. I only knew that if you've ever been the one holding everyone together, you recognize the exact moment you let go. If this feels familiar, stay with me. Some stories don't end where you expect they begin the second you stop paying the price for someone else's comfort. The morning after I walked out, my phone lit up before the coffee finished brewing. A message from Jake came first. Something was wrong with the rent. The payment hadn't gone through. The wording was casual, almost polite, as if this were a technical glitch instead of a missing lifeline. I didn't answer. Another notification followed, this time from my mother. She reminded me that Jake had kids. That stability mattered. That family didn't abandon each other when things got uncomfortable. The word abandon landed heavier than she probably intended. I opened my banking app and let the truth line up in front of me. Neat and unforgiving. 14 months of transfers. Every single one labeled temporary. The rent alone, $1,350 every month, stacked up quietly, without ceremony. Daycare followed close behind. $480 that always seemed overdue. Utilities slipped in between. Groceries, medical copays, emergency repairs that somehow never fixed anything. There was even the $2,900 my parents had needed for home repairs. Money handed over after my mother cried about leaks and stress and how she didn't know who else to ask. The phone buzzed again. Jake's voice came through this time, tight and defensive. He mentioned how hard things had been, how he was trying, how the kids didn't need more instability right now. The word trying felt thin, Another call stacked on top of it, this one from my father. His tone carried irritation more than concern. He reminded me of everything they had done for me growing up. School, food, a roof over my head. As if childhood were a loan with interest. I leaned back against the counter and let the calls ring out. The truth was, no one had ever asked if I could afford this. No one checked whether I wanted to keep paying. Somewhere along the way, my help had stopped being help and turned into expectation. My mother left a voicemail not long after, her voice sharp now. She accused me of embarrassing the family, of making Jake panic, of choosing money over people. I listened once. I didn't replay it. My thumb hovered over the screen as I scrolled through the automatic transfers, each one quietly repeating the same promise I'd never made out loud. The app asked for confirmation before canceling the next payment. It felt less like pulling a plug and more like stepping out of the way. I tapped confirm. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. But for the first time in a long while, it belonged to me. By noon, the calls shifted from panic to accusation. My mother's voice returned, softer this time, coated in memory. She reminded me of the afternoon I had gone with Jake to sign his lease, how crowded the office had been, how the kids were restless, how the landlord wouldn't approve him a loan. Back then, she had squeezed my hand and promised it was temporary, just a formality, just until Jake found steady work. She had looked relieved when I signed as co-signer, like a problem had been neatly passed along. I remembered Jake that day, eyes down, jaw tight. He thanked me without meeting my gaze, not because he was ungrateful, but because even then, he knew what this meant. Now that signature sat between us like a quiet trap. My father left a message soon after, his voice measured, almost instructional. He explained that leases were serious things, that walking away wasn't as simple as pressing a button, that landlords didn't care about family drama. He wasn't wrong. He was just late. Jake called again in the afternoon. This time, there was no pretending. His words came fast, tangled. He talked about notices, about how one missed payment led to another, about how my name was on the paperwork. 2. The unspoken message pressed hard against the silence between breaths. I reminded him that the rent had never been his to begin with, that 14 months of help didn't make me responsible for forever, that being listed on a lease didn't mean being owned. The line went quiet. When he spoke again, the tone had shifted, defensive, wounded. He accused me of changing the rules without warning, of putting him in danger, of choosing pride over family. I didn't argue the words. I focused on the pattern. Every time things went wrong, someone else was expected to absorb the impact. Every time I tried to step back, the language turned legal, urgent, frightening. That night, I opened my laptop and read the lease again, every clause, every condition. I learned exactly what my signature meant and what it didn't. There were limits. There were timelines. There were exits. I wasn't trapped. I had just been afraid to look. Before closing the document, I sent one message to Jake. No explanations, no comfort, just clarity. I would not fix this for him. When the screen went dark, I felt the weight shift, not disappear, but move. And for the first time, it wasn't all landing on me. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It came in waves. Jake's messages turned sharp. The politeness dropped. He wrote about stress, about the kids, about how landlords didn't wait for anyone to figure things out. Each line carried the same pressure, just wrapped differently. My mother followed soon after. Her voice carried that familiar mix of disappointment and authority. She reminded me that families didn't operate like businesses, that love wasn't transactional, that cutting off support without warning was cruel. I let the voicemail end without interruption. An hour later, my father tried a different angle. His tone sounded almost reasonable, as if calm might pull me back into place. He talked about consequences, about shared responsibility, about how my name being on documents meant something, whether I liked it or not. I listened. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop again, one by one. I closed the side doors I had left open for years. The daycare account came first. I removed my payment information and added a note requesting future invoices be sent to the parents listed on file. Next were the utility payments I'd been covering when deadlines were missed. I canceled those transfers without ceremony. Each confirmation screen asked if I was sure. The phone rang again while I worked. This time, my mother didn't bother softening her voice. She accused me of humiliating her, of making Jake panic, of choosing money over family loyalty. I held the phone away from my ear for a moment, then brought it back. The words came out steady. I wasn't paying another cent. Silence followed. Not stunned silence. Calculating silence. The call ended without goodbye. By evening, the messages piled up. Jake blamed me for creating chaos. My father warned that I was burning bridges. Someone I barely recognized sent a text asking if everything was okay at home. Megan was the only one who didn't demand anything. Her message was short. She hoped I was safe. She hoped I was okay. I typed back that I was. That night, the quiet felt unfamiliar. No alerts, no emergencies, no one asking me to step in and smooth things over. I knew what they were feeling on the other side of that silence. Confusion, fear, the sudden realization that the safety net had been a person, not a system. I didn't celebrate it. I didn't regret it either. For the first time, the bank was closed, and whatever came next, they would have to face it without reaching for my name first. My mother showed up 2 days later without calling first. She stood in my doorway, holding her purse like a shield, eyes already tired, voice carefully controlled. She stepped inside as if the space still belonged to her, then sat down before I offered anything. She didn't waste time on small talk. Jake needed help again. Not rent this time. Something bigger. Something urgent. Her words slowed when she reached the number. $18,000. A personal loan. Just a bridge, she explained. Just until Jake got back on his feet. The bank needed a co-signer. Someone stable. Someone responsible. Her gaze stayed on me. I reminded her that I had already helped. That 14 months of support wasn't a pause. It was a pattern. That my name was still tied to a lease I didn't live in. She leaned forward, lowering her voice like this was between us. She told me Jake was drowning, that the kids were scared, that this wasn't the time to stand on principles. Then came the line I'd heard my entire life. I was strong. I could handle it. I let the words settle. The room felt smaller with them in it. I explained that strength wasn't the same as sacrifice, that handling things for other people had nearly erased me, that co-signing another debt wouldn't save Jake. It would only delay what he refused to face. Her expression tightened. The softness disappeared. She accused me of changing, of becoming cold, of forgetting where I came from. I told her exactly where I was standing. She tried one last push. Family stuck together. Blood mattered more than paperwork. This was what decent people did. I stood and opened the door. The silence stretched between us, sharp and final. She gathered her purse slowly, as if expecting me to stop her. When I didn't, disappointment hardened into something closer to anger. She warned me that choices had consequences. The door closed behind her without drama. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a notification I didn't expect. A social media post shared by my aunt. A fundraiser link. A familiar apartment photo. A story about a struggling single father abandoned by family. I stared at the screen and understood. They weren't asking anymore. They were rewriting the story. The fundraiser went live by morning. My aunt shared it first, adding a row of broken heart emojis and a caption about family standing together. Friends of friends followed. People I didn't recognize commented with sympathy and prayers. I opened the link once and felt something cold settle in my chest. The title framed Jake as a single father on the edge, struggling to keep a roof over his children's heads. The goal sat there in bold numbers: $7,500, positioned like a lifeline. The photo beneath it stopped me completely. It was the apartment I had paid for, the couch I had bought, the living room I had kept afloat for over a year. The story beneath twisted the truth with impressive precision. It spoke of sudden abandonment, of family support being withdrawn at the worst possible time, of children caught in the middle of adult cruelty. My name didn't appear anywhere, but my absence was painted as betrayal. My phone buzzed before I could close the page. My mother's voice came through, composed, almost professional. She explained that this was necessary, that people were willing to help. That pride shouldn't get in the way of keeping children safe. She added that I didn't have to like it, but I shouldn't interfere. I asked her why my apartment was being used as proof of need. She dismissed the concern immediately. The photo was public. The situation was real. This wasn't about me. The call ended before I could respond. Another message followed, this time from Jake. His tone had changed again. There was no anger now, just exhaustion and a thin layer of justification. He told me the fundraiser wasn't personal. That desperate times called for desperate measures. That this didn't mean he blamed me. I didn't reply. Instead, I scrolled through the comments. Strangers praised his strength. Some criticized the unnamed family member who had walked away. A few offered advice about cutting off toxic people. I took screenshots of everything. The description, the photo, the comments, the goal amount, each detail captured and saved. By afternoon, Megan called. Her voice shook as she explained that Mom had reached out to her next, asked her to help cover groceries, suggested she move some money around, reminded her that family needed to step up now that I had disappeared. Megan sounded tired, not angry, just worn down. I told her she didn't owe anyone anything. That desperation made people grab at whoever was closest, that this didn't mean she had to let them. She went quiet for a long moment. Then she admitted she had filled out a job application that morning. I closed my eyes and felt the shift. The fundraiser was meant to shame me back into place. Instead, it exposed everything: who depended, who manipulated, and who, quietly, was ready to stop. The page stayed live. The story kept spreading. I stayed silent and watched the consequences begin to line up on their own. Megan didn't call right away. When she finally did, her voice sounded different, steadier, quieter, like someone choosing each word instead of apologizing for them. She told me she had gone to an interview that morning. Nothing glamorous. Part-time, retail, a schedule that worked around the kids she sometimes watched for our parents. She mentioned it the way people mention the weather, casual but deliberate. Our mother had called her afterward. The message was familiar. Someone needed to step up now that I had walked away. Groceries were tight. Things were stressful. Family pulled together when one person failed. Megan paused there, letting the sentence sit between us. She admitted she hadn't agreed. Not right away. She had told Mom she needed to think about it. That alone felt like a rebellion. I reminded her that thinking wasn't betrayal, that saying no wasn't cruelty, that exhaustion didn't mean weakness. She laughed once, sharp and surprised, like she hadn't expected anyone to say that out loud. Later that night, she sent a text. She had opened a checking account in her own name. No shared access. No emergency promises. Just hers. I told her I was proud of her. The words came easily and stayed true. The next message arrived less than an hour later. Jake had received an eviction notice. The words were plain, almost clinical. Past due rent. Final warning. Move-out timeline spelled out in black and white. Megan didn't add commentary. She didn't ask what I would do. I sat with the information longer than I expected. Not because I felt guilty, but because I recognized the moment for what it was. The point where avoidance stopped working. The point where pretending collapsed under paperwork. Megan followed up once more before midnight. She told me she was tired of being the backup plan, tired of smoothing things over, tired of watching the same patterns repeat while everyone waited for someone else to fix them. I told her she didn't have to fix anything. She didn't argue. For the first time since New Year's Eve, someone in my family had moved forward without asking me to carry them. The eviction moved faster than anyone expected. Jake called late that night, his voice stripped down to something raw. The apartment was gone. He was packing what he could. The kids were asleep on the floor at our parents' place, confused and quiet in a way that felt heavier than crying. He didn't blame me this time. He didn't ask for money. He just talked, like someone finally out of excuses. The next call came from my mother before sunrise. No speeches, no moral lessons, just 6 words that landed harder than any accusation. They had failed. All of them. By afternoon, the situation shifted again. Megan forwarded an email she had been copied on by mistake. A custody petition, filed by Jake's ex-partner. The language was formal, detached, devastating. Missed daycare payments, unstable housing, documentation attached. This wasn't drama. This was procedure. Jake left a voicemail not long after. His voice shook as he apologized. Not for losing the apartment. Not for the fundraiser. For everything that came before. He admitted he had leaned on me because it was easier than standing up himself. Our father tried next. His tone was quiet, unfamiliar. He asked if we could talk. Not about money. About what came next. I listened to every message once. Then I typed a single text into the family group chat. Dinner. My place. Sunday at 6. No explanations followed. No reassurance. Just the invitation. The replies came slowly. Megan confirmed first. She offered to bring drinks. My parents followed hours later, cautious but grateful. Jake waited the longest. When his response finally appeared, it was simple. He would be there. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel responsible either. What had unfolded couldn't be fixed with a transfer or a signature. It would require something none of us had practiced very well before. Accountability. The house stayed quiet as the messages settled. For the first time, the crisis wasn't circling me. It was moving through all of us, demanding decisions no one could outsource anymore. They arrived quietly. No speeches, no apologies rehearsed in advance. Just people sitting at a table, careful with their words for once. Jake spoke first. His voice didn't rush. He acknowledged the mess without defending it. He talked about the job he'd started that week. Early shifts. Long hours. How tired felt different when it was earned. Our mother followed, hands folded tightly. She admitted she had confused control with care, that saving someone over and over had felt like love until it hollowed everyone out. My father didn't fill the silence right away. When he finally leaned in, the words were simple. He thanked me. Not for money, for stopping. Megan listened more than she spoke. When she did, her voice held something new ownership. She mentioned her classes starting next month, night sessions. Slow progress. Her progress. I let the moment settle before setting the boundary that had been waiting all along. No one here carries anyone else anymore. No one argued. No one negotiated. We ate after that. Not to celebrate. Just to share space without transactions attached. Later, as they left one by one, I felt lighter in a way that didn't ask permission. Some families survive because someone keeps paying the cost. Others survive because someone finally stops. If any part of this feels familiar, stay with me. These stories aren't about cutting people off. They're about choosing honesty over comfort and responsibility over rescue. The night ended without promises. That felt right. What we had now wasn't perfect. It was real. And for the first time, it belonged to all of us equally.